Listeners beware, you're in for a scare.
Howdy folks, welcome to Nightmare on Fear Street, an R.L. Stine podcast. And this week, I don't know, Meg, I'm having a hard time. I can't finish books anymore. It's almost like I need a little buddy.
You want a reading buddy?
How'd you know?
Because I think I am your reading buddy, Zach. I think that's what this podcast is and has always been.
As you look in the camera, it's like product placement. You start like slowly like raising the book.
Reading Rainbow.
I can go anywhere. Take a look. It's in a book. Reading Rainbow. I love Reading Rainbow.
We didn't introduce ourselves.
Oh, I'm Zach.
And I'm Meg.
And welcome to Nightmare on Fear Street, an R.L. Stine podcast. So this week we read The Reading Buddy by Bryce Gibson. Funny enough, he's actually a listener of our show and he did not recommend this book to us. It just happened to come into our laps.
I kept thinking that he recommended this book, but he didn't. It was just a little happy accident.
Yeah, because I was looking him up and like on Twitter, because that's usually what I do. Just maybe, to contact the author and be like, hey, can we use your book and stuff? As a courtesy when it comes to like knockoff Goosebumps books. And it's just like, it was just interesting. Like, wait, he follows us. Like, what?
We don't make mistakes. We have happy little accidents.
Most things are happy little accidents. Like my sister, for one.
I honestly had no idea that was what you were going to say. Like, I was not ready. That was so funny.
So, Meg, how was your spooky week?
I saw I, Tonya 2 whole times. I also saw in the new Insidious. I haven't seen any of the other ones, but I will because I really liked this one. It was fun, and it features hometown hero Angus Sampson of 100 Bloody Acres, which is like one of my favorite Australian movies of all time. It's very good. It's super gory. It's kind of like Wolf Creek meets Sweeney Todd, but like funny. Yeah, it's about these two brothers who run a blood and bone fertilizer business, and the secret ingredient is that they kidnap hitchhikers and grind them up and put them in the fertilizer, and it makes the plants grow really good. And yesterday I watched Cabin in the Woods again. I hadn't watched that for a while. Still good. Still a very good film.
Pancakes!
No, that's Cabin Fever. Cabin in the Woods is the like weird meta one.
I'm sorry, when I hear cabin, the first thing I think about is, a confectionery.
Pancakes!
Eggs!
Dennis, no! Choo, choo, choo.
Oh, God. I love Cabin in the Woods. Cabin in the Woods is actually one of my favorite horror movies just because it's really funny, and surprisingly, Chris Hemsworth can actually act in this movie.
Chris Hemsworth is a treasure. He's good in everything except those weird Foxtel ads that he does where the possum tries to have sex with him. Those make me uncomfortable. But, yeah, I love Chris Hemsworth. Hometown hero, even though he's not from Sydney.
The sad thing is, I didn't think he was Australian until I saw the Dundee Super Bowl commercial. And I was like, oh, it makes sense now.
Oh, yeah. I'm so mad that that's not a real movie. I'm so angry that that's not a real movie. Because, like, that trailer is, like, the height of Ozcore, though, like, as a genre.
Do you guys have, like, a bronze statue of, like, Crocodile Dundee?
I feel like somewhere they must. There's a giant statue of a crocodile with boxing gloves on out in somewhere in Northern Territory. So I would not be surprised if there was a giant statue of Paul Hogan as Crocodile Dundee somewhere. So the movies that you gotta watch if you want to like get into Ozploitation, this is for you as much as it is for the listeners. Definitely watch Mad Max, all of them if you haven't already seen them.
Yes, especially Fury Road and The Road Warrior.
Yes. And Wormwood, which is sort of like a road trip zombie movie that came out recently. I would recommend also 100 Bloody Acres, which I mentioned before. The Castle, which isn't really Ozploitation, but it is like the Australian film. It's the most quoted Australian film, probably, because if you've seen it once, like every line of dialogue from it becomes part of your lexicon. Like, Australian listeners, you know what I'm saying when I say like something like it's the vibe, it's Mabo, or This is going straight to the pool room. Yeah, it's a very memeable film, which is why it's very popular here.
Chills and thrills.
Chills and thrills, guys. And then also Round the Twist, TV series that I will force Zach to watch at some point because it is our Goosebumps.
Yeah, even your mom told me to watch it.
It's our Goosebumps. My mom wrote her, thesis on Round the Twist.
Yeah, no, she told me when we actually were hanging out. She was telling me, it's they teach it in universities.
Yeah. Is that an Australian accent or a Southern accent for my mom that you're doing? Never do it again, please. So, Zach, how was your spooky week?
I was really interesting. I've had a lot of interesting things happen to me in the last 2 weeks.
I've just got to, listeners, I've got to tell you all that Zach, we were meant to record yesterday, but then Zach sends me a message that was I've just got a job opportunity that's come up and I can't say no to it. I have to go dig a grave. And I was like, what?
No, it wasn't. Okay, so it's I have to dig a grave. But, so it ended up, actually, the job opportunity was working on a short film. I had started working on it Sunday to Monday, and I spent most of my last night, I'm really tired, because I spent about 12 hours in a cemetery. From dusk till dawn.
From dusk till dawn.
And you know what the worst part is about this, Meg? Is, halfway through, I had to get some stuff, and there's no cars available, so I have to walk through the cemetery at night holding a little pen flashlight. You know what the worst part about this is, Meg? I was getting kind of spooked out because there's also coyotes in that area.
What?
And, if you play music and stuff, they'll go away from you. So, my Spotify playlist, I'm pretty sure I committed a couple sacrileges because first song that popped up was Dead Man's Party by Oingo Boingo. And then half of the rest was just Weird Al Yankovic.
How is that a sacrilege? I reckon that all of the skeletons would be super stoked to hear some Dead Man's Party by Oingo Boingo. I reckon, if they have a healthy sense of irony, they would like that.
Oh, yeah, no, it's a lot of fun, but yeah. So, just imagine that. I was, halfway through walking, I was man, I really should have brought scary stories to tell in the dark.
And then you would have gotten your foot snagged on a tree branch, and you would have gotten so spooked that you had a heart attack and died, and then you would have been the scary story.
And then the coyotes eat me.
Yeah, coyotes are pretty, ballsy little boys, aren't they? They'll come up to people, won't they? I don't know anything about coyotes.
Well, no, but, because we were so close, they were leaving us, but they were just telling us, hey, there's coyotes in the area, just in case. Though, it was a really fun shoot. It was about 30 degrees, and I loved every second of it.
30 degrees...
Fahrenheit.
My knee-jerk reaction was why was it so hot?
I'm just imagining the meme of the woman with the calculations.
Yes! That's been me a lot of times this week, honestly. I've had some problems. Also, I forgot to say that I took my puppy to puppy school last night. I'm not going to go on any further because that's really all I have to say on that, but I think that it's important that you know that my puppy made friends and was good.
Other than that, I got to go see Black Panther, so Wakanda Forever.
Oh, I was meant to go see that this week with Claire, but she canceled on me again.
You should just have gone and seen it.
I'm just going to go and see it without her. Claire, if you're listening to this, which you probably aren't, I'm sorry.
I can sum this up in just one word. Yep, that's the word. The entire movie was amazing.
I bet. I've heard really good things.
I liked it. Though, the weirdest part about this movie is there's a scene in this where I couldn't stop laughing because I was thinking of a completely different movie.
Don't tell me what it is. No spoilers. Tell me what it is after I've seen it. I will know. I will know, probably.
Yes. And then, listeners, if you can figure out what scene it was and tweet at me, and you're right, I don't know what's going to happen, but something might happen. And then, lastly, I got some big old news. Meg, you here for this?
Yes.
Me and my friend B have started another podcast.
Is this B of Unfortunate Associates?
Turn to the camera? Why, yes.
Our friend B has started a new podcast with you? What is it called?
It's called Radio Camp Half-Blood, where each week we read a chapter of Percy Jackson and the Olympians, and we talk about it.
Oh, nice.
So that's our new little show. We wanted to do something for a while, and this just seems like something that's easy for us.
Now, you know that you've done this, and now I feel like I have to go out and start a Spiderwick Chronicles podcast.
That's fine. You can do it. And this, you can get like Nega Zack.
Kaz, which is Zack spelled backwards, and he's got a goatee. The opposite Zack from the Bizarro world. Anyway, we read The Reading Buddy.
Yes, we did. And
we did.
I really, really enjoyed this book too much.
This book was like, I don't know how you can enjoy a book too much, Zach. I don't think that's possible.
So for me, there's books that you can just like binge read, and that's what if you enjoy a book too much where you just can't think of anything but finishing that book. Examples are this book, Series of Unfortunate Events, the first Harry Potter. I hate to say it, Meg, and I know you hate this book, but Ready Player One. I think I just heard like a deep sigh. I'm scared.
I don't like that book. And I have another book that I don't like that I want to mention, just to get a little, like, throw a little tiny bit of shade when we start talking about the cover. But yeah, I liked this book. I think it is self-published, so there are, like, spelling and grammar errors, but, like...
Well, I mean, you can also get an editor, but also it's like, when it comes to like professionally editing books, like they go line for line. Like it's not just one person. Like their entire job is supposed to be doing like going from that. If you're doing it independently, you don't have that luxury. But most of the time, unless like you don't know how to spell and write fan fiction, people don't notice.
Yeah, it's like there were just like a couple times where you like used the wrong there. But other than like, from that, it's kind of amateur-y, but like it's self-published. So who cares if it is? I'm just glad that he's out here writing these stories, because it was a pretty good story.
Yeah, I believe he used Amazon's Creative Commons, which is a really great program, and a lot of people that use it some of my favorite authors just write independent books on Amazon. So
yeah, I've had a couple of friends that have self-published using Amazon.
There's Will Wright, who writes this amazing he just keeps writing fantasy series that are amazing. I like him, so shout out to Will Wright. If you haven't read the Traveler's Gate series, read it. I think it's just as good as Game of Thrones.
Well, I'll have to go check it out. So this book is really it's cool. It's like, it's a good sort of response to the Fear Street series in my eyes. Like, he's clearly very inspired by it, and he takes a lot of the things that annoy me about Fear Street books and sort of turns them upside down.
He subverts expectations, if I want to use a Star Wars term. And I like that about this, except there's only one weird, like, the only thing if I were going to say something, if I'm talking to you, Bryce, directly, is that I think we're so used to Goosebumps and Fear Street where we have sudden stops and stuff where the chapter ends, and that's considered like a transition, whereas he has like these really weird transitions, which made me really confused.
Yeah, a couple of things about this book confused me, but for the most part, I could follow it. And for the most part, I really enjoyed it. I think it was a great, solid effort, and I think that, like, we should read more independent stuff like this, because it's just different.
Oh yeah, no, there's a lot of stuff on Amazon that we could easily read. Or if anyone wants to submit books to us, we'll totally read them on air. You don't have to pay us. You just be like, hey, give us the book, and we'll read it, and we'll give an honest review. That's simple as that.
We will try and be as honest as possible.
R.L. Stein submits a book. Hey, I want you to read this book for me.
R.L. Stein, who's that? No, it's me, L.R. Neist.
No, it's like it's S.T. Reline.
No,
you just flip the last two letters.
It's just, and you look at the picture on the inside cover of the book, and it's R.L. Stein, but he's got like a little mustache
and a goatee.
Jovial Bob. Classic Jovial Bob goof.
It's not even like it's put on, like he actually like put it on with like a sticker.
Yes.
And it peels off. Like,
yes.
After the death of his best friend and stepdad, members of the night, the screams, the blood, the axe. Now Blake suffers from social anxiety, making friends at his new home seem impossible. With his therapist's suggestion, Blake joins a social media site called The Reading Buddy. It is supposed to be a way for him to slowly step back into social relationships. It doesn't take long for him to become an online friends with a man named Charlie 17. Recovery seems to be within reach, but once the school year starts, 3 local teens quickly pull Blake into their circle, and soon it appears that Charlie 17 doesn't want to share his new friends with anyone else. The Reading Buddy is a southern-set throwback to teen horror thriller novels from the 1990s and will keep you guessing until the very end. Written by Bryce Gibson.
And so, Now, you want to talk about this cover?
I didn't know that this was a stock image, Meg, so for me I was like, this is a really nice looking cover.
Yeah, it's a stock image. And I thought, you see, you don't get the vibe that it's a stock image because it actually, like, fits in with the story, because there is this recurring figure of a person holding an axe wearing a black raincoat with the hood pulled up.
Okay, so I think what happened then is that Bryce saw that image first, and then he wrote his character around it to make it fit into the cover.
Maybe. But anyway, the thing that I want to say about this is the reason that I know that it's a stock image is that it's exactly the same as the cover to Elias Witherow's The Black Farm. Let me just this is what I was talking about before, let me just spill some tea here. I don't like The Black Farm. It's not good.
I've never read it, so I can't spit out any tea.
Don't. The short story that it's based on is like one of the only no sleep stories that I've had to fast forward through because it was just very tedious.
Oh wow, shots fired.
But personally, I think that The Black Farm is bad.
Everyone has the right to their own opinions.
Yes, everybody has the right to their own opinions. I don't think that the cover fits The Black Farm as much as it fits The Reading Buddy. It fits The Reading Buddy perfectly. Like, to the point that I didn't think that this was a stock image. So it's a pretty good cover from that standpoint.
No, it's very, like, visually striking. Like, you can pick this up and you know what you're about to read. And it's like teen horror. I mean, Meg, if you were to design, like, a special cover for this, what would you add to this?
I just gotta say that this cover image really reminds me of I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, what's that movie called? There's this movie with Vincent Price where he kills people because he's like an insane like actor, so he kills them in Shakespearean ways, like how the villains in Shakespeare died.
That's also like the plot of an episode of Warehouse 13.
You know, I'm surprised no one has made like a thread post about me, like how many references Zach can make about weird, obscure horror movies.
Yeah, like, somebody should do just, like, a supercut of, like, times that Zach has referenced something, and I've just been like, what? What? What?
And most people are like, what?
Zach, what? So this book starts off, like, very much in medias res. We got our main character, Blake, running away from a guy with an axe.
Wait, Blake? I thought his name was Blockade.
You were calling him Blockade, but that's not his name. It's Blake.
I thought his best friend was named Aaron.
No, his best friend's name is Davy.
Oh no, did I read the wrong book?
You might have.
Oh no.
You look down and it's The Shadow Zone by J.R. Black.
You know, I found that book, the one I threw across the room, but I could not find it, and I finally found it, and I was like, no!
It's like the Babadook, it comes back if you try to destroy it.
God, I hate that book, and you know what? I hope that, like, one day it just turns to dust, and...
I hope one day J.R. Black is held accountable for his crimes.
Against humanity? Yeah, I'm gonna be the one that, like, sentences him to, like, death by writing better books. He has to write a book until it's actually good.
It's like the, what's that Bible where the guy was like, the monk was put to death and unless he could write the Bible in 1 year, and he left it all to the last minute, so he made Satan do it for him. The Gigas Codex? Do you know that? It's like an old legend of this demonic Bible that has like a giant picture of the devil, like right in the middle of it. And supposedly it's this guy, and he was, his punishment for committing some crime was to be alone in a cell, and he had to write the Bible in 1 year, and he left it all to the last minute, and so then he prayed to Satan, and then Satan wrote the Bible for him.
Oh, you mean The Shadow Zone by J.R. Black?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the secret origin story of J.R. Black.
This is the modern, trendy version?
Yeah. His publishers were like, J.R. Black, you have to write a book that's exactly like Goosebumps, but you have 1 year to do it, and then he left it all to the last minute. He was like, help me, Satan.
And then...
Satan, take the typewriter.
No, Satan doesn't really, he ollies in on a skateboard. What can I help you with, fam?
Do you know where else the devil went?
To Georgia?
He went down to Georgia, which is where this book is set. Back on topic. We saved it.
Yeah, so Blake's actually running away. The beginning of the story is him panicking and running away in South Carolina, and
yeah, it starts off in South Carolina.
It's really cool because the way it's a first person perspective, and he's talking about how he has to be several blocks from this pool store, and he has this key, and that his stepfather's chasing him through. And it's really kind of spooky because, you get this ambience and you don't know what's happening because it's such...
You really get into it. You're just thrown into it.
Yeah, it's wait, I don't even get a chance to meet the character. Compared to Fear Street where you meet the character and they basically tell them their story. Hi, my name is insert Fear Street kid here. I run the local ice cream shop. No
I
one's...
have long ebony black hair with frosted tips, and I have blue eyes like limpid tears, and people tell me I look like Amy Lee. Anytime we talk about like a character like expositing about their appearance, I am going to reference my immortal. Yeah, it's like we were saying, a Fear Street book, usually we have like the first chapter is just like the teens hanging around talking about teen things. In this book, you're just like, bam, right in the action, guy with an axe, and he's running, and he goes to the pool store, and what's gonna happen? You don't know. It just like pulls you in right from the beginning. You don't have to sit around with annoying teens for a chapter.
Then you would imagine, like, would it be like a flashback, like, oh, how did he get to the situation? But no. So, like, Blake goes to this pool store, and he opens the door, and his stepdad comes in. He's like about to kill him when all of a sudden, like, there's like a pool display, or I want to say it's like a jacuzzi display that's hanging from the ceiling for some reason.
Yeah, and it falls on him.
Yeah, it falls on him and crushes his stepdad to death, and Blake has to spend the rest of the night, like, looking at his stepdad's corpse.
Which is so horrifying.
And you're like, oh, it's gonna get worse from here, I guess. Because that just sounds, like, horrific.
And then it's cuts to,
like 2 years later, or like a year.
Yeah, it cuts to him in therapy, basically.
I think I told you about this, like, a little bit ago, but I felt like this was the story, like, the way that Bryce Gibson wrote this is what happened after the Fear Street book. I felt like the beginning of this book was like, oh, this is the ending of a Fear Street book, and then this is like what happened afterwards, because he goes to therapy.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about this before. It's like, this is like a deconstruction of like any story where like the teens go through some horrible event. It's like, this is what happens afterwards. You have like, this guy is like thoroughly shaken by his experience, and he has post-traumatic stress disorder, and he has anxiety, and he's like, he was institutionalized, and he's in therapy, and he's having difficulty readjusting to society because he had to, like, his stepdad killed his friend, and then he had to be, like, trapped under a pool display with his dead stepdad.
It's not like the Rat 80s ending where, like, people get pizza at the end.
Yeah, and it's like, we're too cool for mental illness, Ollie's away. No, this is, like, really, like, realistic, and I like that a lot about this. That's one of the things that's really good about this book.
So then the therapist, like, suggests, hey, you like reading. Reading's one of your passions, but because, you've been super depressed, you don't do it as often. Here, we're going to give you this program, which I think is the greatest program that does not exist in the world, and I've looked high and low and occasionally in a sewer. The Reading Buddy.
And when you looked in the sewer, did you find a clown?
I found, like, these Teenage Mutant Ninja tortoises. Yeah, but no, the Reading Buddy is like this great program that Bryce, I think, I'm gonna just, because I know you're listening to this. If this doesn't exist, just make it, and you'll make $1,000. Basically what the Reading Buddy is you get paired up with a friend, or you can, like, friend request somebody. Then you can, like, get access to, like, a library server where you can, like, pick a book, and you both will read that book in a set amount of time, and you can make notes, and you can IM each other. And I think that's, technically, you could do it now, because a lot of the books that you could do are public domain. Like, if you want to do, like, the classics and stuff, you can just use Project Gutenberg, assemble all those books that you want into EPUB or whatever you want it to be. And you could do it that way.
If something like the Reading Buddy existed, it would make our podcasting experience so much easier.
Oh no, it would make it more funny. What are you talking about, Meg? All I would do is, like, write jokes, and you'd be like, Zach, stop it.
We would be able to, like, read it together instead of it just being, like, me forgetting to read the book until the day before and then just, like, cramming the whole thing.
Yeah, and then it's kind of like a competition as well, because it tells you, like, how far that person's ahead. I think this would be, like, a great program, especially, like for me, I'm a huge proponent of integrating old technology with new, and I believe that this would be a great way to get kids to read more, because you would have both the competitive nature of it, and also sometimes people don't like reading by themselves, and having, like, this interactivity where you can basically talk about certain passages.
It's sort of like an online book club, almost.
Yeah, kind of like what we do, except ours is audio.
But there's just 2 of you, and we are sharing the book with everybody listening.
Yeah, and I also suffer from terrible traumatic stuff. I mean, when I was younger, I was attacked by a clown. Me and my friends beat him up in the sewer real bad.
And, yeah, so, like, in 40 years, are you gonna go back there and, like, resolve the issue forever by killing the clown permanently?
Yeah, except, I always have, like, this weird, like, I get a headache every time I try to listen to New Kids on the Block.
That reminds me of how, like, me and my friends found a dead body.
Really? Did you stand by yourself?
By the train tracks? Yeah, we stood by each other.
Oh, that's like the other time where, me and my family we went up to this hotel, and my dad was like really tired and he chased us
And the twins were like, come play with us, Zach.
and I was like, you get to play? There's a thing called playtime? What?
And you have your little bike.
Yeah, like little trikey.
This is what happens when you have a podcast that's hosted by two people who have ADHD. It becomes incomprehensible garbage.
I like that program. So what the therapist does is he pairs him up, because the great thing, again, is that the therapist, they're pairing up people that both have, like, they have psychological problems. So, like, you know, you can get friends and have, like, a common, it's almost like a help group.
It's like a reading therapy.
I did something similar to that because I used to have really, really bad ADHD. It's gotten a little better. But, so I used to do stuff like that. I had, like, group sessions, but we would do, like, a book club.
I think I had a book club when I was a kid, too.
So Blake is actually paired up with this guy named Charlie 17, and they hit it off really quickly.
And Charlie 17 is the titular reading buddy.
Yes.
Blake goes to school, and he's, like, really nervous about starting school because he's been so, like, away and isolated from other people his own age, and he's, like, got really bad social anxiety.
Well, I mean, that would make sense, seeing how your best friends died.
Yeah, I mean, naturally. But, like, his dad is kind of flippant towards him and, like, doesn't really take it seriously, but is still pretty supportive of him. And, yeah, when he goes to school, he meets this guy called Cade Willison.
Oh, man, this guy, oh my god. He just seems like the person that, like, if this was written in the 80s, he's the person that wears, like, a trench coat and drives a Trans Am.
Oh, most definitely. Like, the whole time I was picturing Christian Slater and Heathers.
Actually, you know who I was thinking of? I was thinking of the guy from Stranger Things Season 2.
Which guy from Stranger Things Season 2? There's many guys.
Max's brother.
The mullet boy who looks exactly like Robert Downey Jr. did when he was that age.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, I was basically just picturing JD from Heathers as Cade Willison. And let me just say, I've never heard of the name Cade before, but, like, it totally sounds like a name that someone in the South would give their kid. So Cade Willison's kind of like a bad boy. And he's the mayor's son.
That's kind of a trope, though. That's kind of like, you always have, like, the friend.
Yeah, like, the mayor's kid is always, like, a bad boy.
He's the bad boy, or, like, he's the really popular person, but he's just, like, a really big jerk face.
Yeah.
Because his daddy will sue.
And then, like, he never gets in trouble because his dad, like, owns the police. I don't know how government works.
No, so Jeb, the only reason why Jeb talks to Blake is because Blake's dad owns a microbrew.
Yeah, and so he's like, we should go to the brewery at night and drink some alcohol.
We should drink like Ragnarok is coming. Oh, rad, Ragnarok, you know, Thor.
Thor Ragnarok? That.
I have that on DVD.
Shut up, nerd. Anyway.
Jeff Goldblum's his dad. No, so Blake goes back home and steals his dad's keys to the bar. Kim and Cabe are there, and all of a sudden, two more people pop up, and that's Lisa and Tristan.
So Tristan is Cade's friend. His
best friend.
Yeah, and then the guy Riley, the guy that works at the brewery, is still there, and he's like, look, kids, I know you're not supposed to be here, but I'm not like those other adults. I'm a cool dude.
Yeah, as he, like, ollies off into the sunset.
Yeah, Tristan sort of, like, talks to Blake and says, like, oh, yeah, I had a girlfriend who crashed her car and drowned, so I know what you're going through. It's cool. We can be bros. And then they're, like, drinking, and they start talking about this, like, ghost story in the town.
Almost like the Hassling slasher, in a sense.
Yeah, it's just, like, a story about, like, some woman who was a witch or something, and doesn't have any point to the story, so it's not that important. Yeah, so they talk about the ghost story, and it doesn't really go anywhere. And
then they drink like it's like a Y2K party.
Yeah, they drink many beers because they're rad teens and they live in a town where there's nothing to do.
And it's a microbrew, so these are actual beers, not like a light beer.
Yeah, this is the hard stuff, not those light city slicker beers.
So Blake, you know, they drink and stuff, and Blake wants to get some fresh air. So he goes outside, and while he's outside, he sees, like, off in the distance, a man with an axe or a spatula for a hand.
The hash slinging, the crash banging, the
manhook car door.
Manhook and car door, yeah.
They're all there. That's actually like one of those like conventions. Candyman's also there. As Blake sees it, he accidentally trips and he hits his head on a nail or some sort of thing, and he cuts his head open. All the teens are like, oh no, what do we do? Should we just like bury him or something? And if you've ever had like a head wound, I've had one. They're not fun because
I've
you
never
just
had one,
bleed
but my sister's had one, and they're bad.
Well, yeah, no, if you even cut yourself, because a lot of the blood goes to your head, so it's just like a blood fountain. So, like, they're panicking, and Cabe grabs Blake's cell phone and calls his dad, and he's like, hey, your son's dying. Okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah, that's such like an awkward thing, but like I feel like that's a very honest depiction of teen life because I can remember a couple of times where I've been like doing something that I'm not supposed to do, and then one friend like gets hurt, and then I have to call that friend's mom, and the mom's like, "What the hell are you guys doing there?"
Blake goes to the hospital. Cabe goes home, and the next day after, Blake has gotten like all the stitches in his face.
Yeah, and then Cade crashes his car, doesn't he?
Yeah, he crashes his car, and now the mayor's mad, and he's gonna make Blake's dad shut down the brewery.
Yeah.
But what about all the beer inside? Oh, wait.
Well, I guess we have to drink it so that the teens can't drink it.
Watch this, like, the entire thing is, like, the opposite of Footloose. Like, it is, like, that's it. The whole town has to have prohibition, see?
Blake gets in trouble, and yeah, Lisa tells him that Mayor Willison is actually, like, trying to shut down a lot of the small businesses because he's got, like, deals to build a highway through that area and, like, direct traffic to all of, like, the area that's got the big chain stores.
This is where the book doesn't fall apart, but, like the plot threads kind of, like, fray a little bit.
Yeah, I had trouble understanding this plot thread about Mayor Willison.
So Lisa is she's not like the tree hugger, but she's like I'm going to save the environment and the small businesses type of woman. Yeah,
I'm loath to use this expression because it's been ruined by the internet, but she's a social justice warrior. She wants to save the small businesses.
See, this is where, like, this, okay, once again, like, the threads I'm doing, like, the thing, like, they're fraying out a little bit here, is that there's, like, this weird plot thread where Mayor Wilson, I guess he also illegally hunts.
They find out that Cade is illegally hunting as well.
Yes, because it's like they have like the hunting cameras, and Lisa is like, we're gonna.
There's this old like decrepit building in a field, and they find out that was like the hunting club back in the day.
Yeah, it's really really weird. It doesn't really go. Unfortunately, this plot doesn't go anywhere because then the weirdest thing is this is where like early 2000s logic of we're gonna frame the mayor while he's running for office with a huge billboard.
Yeah, and there's like a shopping mall that's gonna open, and they're gonna like hack the billboard to make it have this big like picture of him on it.
It's like I just imagine it's like the picture. Did you ever see the one with Steven Spielberg standing right next to like the Triceratops? Or...
Yes, and the Facebook post that was like, "This is what happened to all the dinosaurs when they were finally shot by greedy hunters."
It's like one of my favorite pictures because someone actually thought this was real.
Yeah, I know. It sort of reminds me of that "No, this is Becky" thing of like the picture of Taylor Swift where it's like, "This is my friend Becky. She smoked a weed and then she died." I'm pretty sure that's a picture of Taylor Swift. No, it's Becky. And then Taylor Swift had a shirt made that said, "No, it's Becky" on it, and she wore it to a concert, which is like the last good thing that Taylor Swift ever did.
No, also one of my other favorite ones is the one where it's like the pomegranate. They show it like really close up, like this is a human heart when it's heartbroken.
Yes.
It's like I'm pretty sure that's a pomegranate. And like, can't you read? It's a it's someone's broken heart.
I love like the meme of just like being wrong and then doubling down on it.
Yeah, no, it's really weird. Just because it's a very convoluted like early 90s plan. Like, this is how we're going to like extort this man.
One of those Disney Channel original movies where it'd be like, "Oh no, this historic house is going to be bulldozed, so we're going to have a rock concert," and then Smash Mouth shows up, you know?
And we're going to buy the house.
Yeah.
That kind of reminds me, so there's a scene in Batman Returns where the Penguin's doing like his like mayoral race, and Batman has like the Bat CD, where he puts it on, and it's just the Penguin saying all these horrible things about Gotham City, and then Bruce Wayne does like a record scratch on it, which is really weird.
Yeah. So yeah, this is whole like we gotta let everybody know that the mayor's corrupt, and that is like the one big criticism that I have of this book is that I don't really understand that plot. It's a little weird.
It's not that I don't understand. It's like I really didn't care for it because it was like a who cares type of moment where I was just like, I want to see what we're following Blake, not this person.
Yeah, it's just a reason to get Blake and Lisa together.
Yeah, because then they get together, and this is where this book we find out this book actually isn't like a young adult book.
Oh boy!
Because there's like naughty bits in this book, and I was just
oh boy, Zach, oh boy. Do you want me to tell him or should you?
You are because, I'm not good with the sex ed.
I got 3 words for you listeners. Werewolf, sex dream.
Oh my god. Wait, I thought babies were made by, like, when you kiss each other.
A dream where he is a werewolf and he's running through the fields and he picks Lisa up with his big, muscular Beast of Bray Road arms, throws her over his shoulder, and then they have sex in the field.
Meg, that's not what happened, Meg. Come
That's
on.
very strongly implied, Zach. You've got to admit.
No. That's not what she does.
That's not what she does, but it is a sexual act, and I want to keep this clean for the, 13-year-olds that listen to this show.
I mean, really, well, I guess what you could say is that she did see the blue moon rising.
Oh. I'm 7. Dick jokes will never not be funny. As we proved with body parts, I'm always gonna laugh at dick jokes.
I was gonna say, I guess she really did finish his toast.
It's like you're getting further and further away from until it's I don't know,
I guess she really did bark at the moon.
Oh boy, we gotta stop now. So anyway, yeah, there's a moment that we didn't really talk about when he sees Lisa out in the field amongst the scuppernongs, which I didn't know this, but that's a type of grape that they use in alcohol production, not wine, but different craft beers use them. So the more you know. She's out there, and then he gets a message from Charlie 17, his reading buddy, at the same time. That's what do you think of her? And he has a moment where he thinks that Charlie 17 is talking about Lisa, but he's actually talking about the main character of the book that they're reading. And I liked that. That was one of my favorite, little tiny little baby scares, sprinkled in there. You know, ooh, little bit scary. A little bit of scary salt sprinkled on there.
I like those little twists like that where it's you think it's one thing but really it's another. It's kind of like when someone overreads a text when you just put K and you get mad.
One of my favorite things I've ever seen is somebody made an alignment chart of ways to respond to text messages, and it was I don't remember most of them, but chaotic evil was K, and I feel that on a very spiritual level.
I really like twists like that where it's you don't know if it's are they talking about one thing or another, and I think it goes really well with the story because it happens more and more, and it's just...
Yeah, and it also, it ties in with there's an element of psychological horror in this book, in that the main character, he is naturally very anxious, and he's experiencing a lot of, hypervigilance as a result of post-traumatic stress, so you don't really know, how much of the threat is in his head, because he overthinks things because of his anxiety.
I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist, I don't have a PhD or anything, and I'm not, I'm going to look it up on, WebMD, but... A lot of what he actually suffers from, I would imagine, is actually what people actually have those afflictions actually suffer from, and it makes a compelling story. Is Bryce, are you a clinical psychologist?
This is a very honest and sensitive portrayal of mental illness in a young person, which I think is really good because a lot of the Fear Street books, it's just why'd he do it? 'Cause he's crazy, whoop, whoop, whoop.
I think we also have to look at it this way, Meg. We have to look at it through the historiography aspect of it was the 90s. It was a much different time for both mental health.
Yeah, it was a very different time. It was still you don't realize how far understanding of mental illness has come until you read something like this and then compare it to something that was written in the 90s.
Also, psychology is actually one of the newer medical fields.
Oh, it is, definitely. Yeah, so Kate and Blake get into a fight at school.
I love this part just because Blake punches Cabe in the face.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the Terminator where he just doesn't feel pain and then he just knocks out Blake.
He decks Blake. And the reason that they had a fight is because Kate has been saying stuff about Lisa.
Yeah, he's slut-shaming her.
Yeah. So Blake is a good and noble boy. He's going to defend Lisa's honor. I know somebody online who invented the phrase, "I'm going to Southern bake your average day," which means absolutely nothing, but now I'm yeah, that might be what it is, a Southern person punching another Southern person in the face.
Well, yeah, no, that's just regular Southern hospitality.
I actually really like the Southern Gothic aspect of this, because I spent a lot of time in North Carolina when I was a child, because I was born there and lived there for a while, and we still spend quarter of the year there a lot of the time, and the South is creepy.
So for me, the way I can actually interpret this is it's both New World and very Old World values at the same time.
Yeah, I think that, but I know exactly what you mean by you saying that, and it's true.
You're looking at not even turn of the century, you're looking at early 1800s values that are still...
Like, a lot of people down there, they're still fighting the Civil War.
By God, they go into the Walmart with the Confederate flags, and like, we're gonna liberate this. This is the new Antietam.
I saw a Confederate flag on somebody's bumper sticker here in Sydney, Australia in the year 2018, and I was like, why?
Is it just like an ironic thing? Or...
It might be. I don't know.
I didn't know that the war lines went all the way to Australia now.
Oh, I mean, we're like south. We're so far south that we're close to Antarctica.
Yeah, so Blake is, like, knocked out, and of course, because...
He gets grounded, so he can't take Lisa to the homecoming dance because he's been grounded.
Suspended as well.
Yeah, he's been grounded and suspended.
Because I remember this in high school is... I didn't get into a fight, but a friend of mine got into a fight, and, he tried to defend himself, and he was the one to get suspended because he hit the other person while defending himself. And their response was, oh, you shouldn't have hit. It's like... What, do you want him to die?
That's everything that's wrong with, like, the way that children are disciplined in, like, one thing. It's like, you just want him to lie down on the ground and get bashed.
Yeah.
Yeah, people at my school got into fights, but, like, I don't think the school could do anything about it because it was, like, out of school hours. So technically it wasn't the school's problem.
No, it's, like, weird stuff like that. So Blake can't go to the new, like, homecoming with... Lisa.
And Lisa says, "You're tearing me apart, Blake."
Blake looks like Babyface.
Because everybody betrayed her. She fed up with the whirl.
The reason why Kay punched him was because Blake was like, "Oh, you chicken.
Cheep. He misses out on Spirit Week. Also.
So what he does is the weird thing is that he gets a letter from his dead best friend's mom.
Yeah, and it's a package, and he opens it up, and he thinks it's a head, but it's actually a stack of books.
Yeah, this is, again, he's doing research, and this is a trigger?
Yeah, well, it's hypervigilance. It's when, like, if you have post-traumatic stress disorder, your brain is always ready for something terrible to happen again. So you always assume the worst thing is going on when something happens. It's another example of him, like, taking an annoying R.L. Stine cliche and making it, like, work. Because, like, in a Fear Street book, it would be like, and I opened the box and there was a head in it, and then on the next page it's like, jokes, it was a stack of books. But in this, like, it makes sense for him to think like that because he's got PTSD. So, like, he would jump to that conclusion. Whereas in, like, other books where a twist like that'll happen, in the Fear Street books or in the Goosebumps books, it just comes across like the character's an idiot.
That just seems to be like a review for all of them. The character comes off like an idiot.
Yeah, that's so true, though. We love R.L. Stine. We love him, but...
R.L. Stine, no. If we didn't love him, we wouldn't be doing a podcast about it.
No, if we didn't love him, we wouldn't be doing this, but we have the right to, like, get a little salty sometimes.
We've read enough books that we can complain now.
We can make fun. We can take the piss.
So the letter is like, hey, you should come visit me. And Blake decides to go visit his dead friend's mom. So he goes over there, and I swear to God, I thought this was going to be, like, weird, like, cougar territory, because the way it's, like, described is just, like...
She, like, sprays the letter with her perfume.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, God, how much worse can this get? Is this, like, prime MILF material here?
Are we headed to Cougar Town? Is this about to get statutory? Wait, how old is Blake?
I don't know, he's, like, not 18.
I think it's 16 in some states, and it's definitely 16 here.
Well, all I know is I was afraid there's going to be mauled by a bobcat.
17 falls into the category of not illegal, but weird, and don't do it.
With his best friend's mom?
He does, like, describe her as being, like, really glamorous, so it is sort of a little bit like Stacy's mom has got it going on.
Oh, no.
This is a bad line. This is a bad train of thought that we're down. Anyway, so he meets her at the Waffle House.
So they get there, and then this is where I'm gonna, like, use quotation marks, the plot kicks in, even though I thought that the plot had kicked in already.
Yeah, the thing is, you don't really know, like, which one of these things is gonna be the real plot, because it just kind of... When it says that this has got twists and turns from the beginning to the end, they truly, truly mean it.
Oh, I thought that this book was about driving on, like, a twisty-turny highway. Meg, this is the weirdest part of this book. This book slowly starts becoming Wicker Man.
Yeah, it becomes like a southern Wicker Man.
And I have a funny story about this.
About Wicker Man?
Oh, about Wicker Man, because it's me and my friend's favorite, one of our favorite movies, the Nicolas Cage one. I think the original one is a classic. So me and my friends have an obsession with Nicolas Cage's Wicker Man, though I think the original is a classic in its own right. They're both interesting movies.
I mean, the original is a good movie, but the Nick Cage version has the scene. You know which one.
So what happened was that me and my friends, we were in this broadcasting class where we had a school news channel. So every Friday that everyone had to watch it. And my friend, we got like, hey, would you like to host all the segments? So we would have like the thing that keeps like, oh, this is the sports and stuff. We did a 15-minute Wicker Man segment, which was all like we did the whole story of Wicker Man as the main segment for the little segments. Oh, I have to go find those videos, but
if you find it, please tweet it.
The reason why we did it was because one of the school play for that week was about a spelling bee, so we did the not the bees scene.
Oh, not the bees!
Not the bees! They're in my eyes. Ah. Oh, but my favorite part about this was we did the ending scene with the Wicker Man.
Oh, good.
We got a bunch of the people in the class. We didn't tell them what we were doing. Okay, you need to come out here and just be very cult-like. And we did it. And the best part about it is our teacher usually gives us feedback. And we watched the whole thing, and he shut it off. And he just looked at us, and he's like, well, I went home. And my wife asked me, how was your day? And he like looked at us. He looked at me, my friend Paul, and he's just like, I told her, I don't know.
That's very good. I have a Wicker Man story that's not nearly as great as that one, but one time on The Sims, on The Sims 3, if you have the Supernatural expansion pack, you can make a potion called Jar of Bees.
Yeah.
And so I made a sim of Nicolas Cage, and I let him loose in the neighborhood for the express purpose of him being there for my, witch sim to be able to throw a jar of bees at him. That was, the peak of me playing The Sims. I got rid of the game after that, because I couldn't possibly do anything better. Yeah, the game automatically deleted itself. It was you can't even beat The Sims, but at that point, it was you beat The Sims. The Sims is canceled now.
Oh my god, so I just imagine, Southern Wicker Man, they just roll out, a gigantic, Colonel Sanders.
Yeah, so Blake has these, memories, these very vague memories of being in a field with a goat and a lady in a cape sowing seeds in a garden. And he's always thought that the lady in that memory was his mom. But it turns out it was the sower, who was, at the center of this sort of hippie commune where everybody was, it was sort of like the Moonies.
I was looking more, towards, the Children of God cult a little bit here.
Yeah, but the Moonies had the whole arranged marriage thing, so it gave me strong vibes of the Moonies, but also Jonestown because they were all trying to be self-sufficient and off the grid and stuff. They grew their own crops and they all lived, and both of his parents got into it and they thought it was going to be really good, but then they realized that it was basically a cult and they escaped because the sower sows the seeds, and then the carrots grow, and then the leaves spell out the names of the people that are supposed to be married.
Yeah, it's really weird. And
it's weird. I couldn't picture that in my head.
Is this the cult that Joaquin Phoenix came out of?
Probably.
This is where the book just is what am I reading right now? Because now this is the main plot of the story. And
yeah, we've totally forgotten about the hunting lodge thing, and now it's this cult stuff. And we've totally forgotten about the reading buddy because now it's the cult stuff.
It's the cult stuff, but no, we do get some more stuff about the reading buddy because
oh yeah, that's right. He has weird dreams where he's signing up for colleges, and the only other person that's signed up for this college is his reading buddy.
Yeah, Charlie 17, and he's dreaming of him as the best way to put it is a stereotypical brony. He's being catfished, even though he was never in a relationship with Charlie 17.
And so he gets so freaked out that he deletes his Reading Buddy account because Charlie 17 says, oh, if you're moving, because his dad has to move to Columbia for work. And so he's I'm going to be moving to Columbia soon. And then Charlie 17 goes, oh, we're going to be so close to each other. Haha. That'll be better than being in the nut house. And Blake obviously freaks out because he's never mentioned the fact that he was institutionalized to anybody. Pretty much. And so he's how does Charlie know? Has he been stalking me? And so he deletes his account.
He completely deletes it. And then, Meg, what happens the next day?
And then he sees a spooky guy in a raincoat standing outside his house.
Yeah, and then what happens the next day, Meg?
He goes to the movies with Lisa, and then on the way home, they see Cade's truck.
Oh my god.
In the field.
It's like, it's a normal truck, right?
Yeah, it's a normal truck. The important part is that it's all bloody, and he's nowhere. And so, apparently, I just gotta mention the fact that they go to the drive-thru and the movie that's playing is cursed, and they mention the bit in that movie where the werewolf flips them off. You know that gif that's everywhere on the internet of the werewolf, like, flipping somebody off and then jumping out a window? It's from the movie Cursed, and they reference that scene in this book. They're like, we saw this movie Cursed. It wasn't super scary, but a lot of parts made me laugh, especially when the werewolf flipped the bird at the guy.
Because Blake is like a huge fan of werewolf movies. I was expecting like American Werewolf in London, The Howling, Werewolf Cop. Come on, people.
Oh my god, Werewolf Cop. Werewolf Cop is a crazy movie. Or even Wolf, starring Jack Nicholson.
Well, that's a good one too. Or the best werewolf movie, Werewolf.
Oh my god, yes. I was wondering which one of us was going to reference it. I was like, I'm not going to say it, because Zach will definitely say it.
It took me a couple of seconds, but yeah, the best werewolf movie.
Yeah, Champagne. An American werewolf in traffic. That was the first episode of Mystery Science Theater that I ever watched, and it's still my favorite.
No, my favorite's Godzilla versus Megalon.
My favorite is still Werewolf. My second favorite is probably Squirm. Save my wife, go antiquing. Save my wife, go antiquing. Mom, why do you sound so southern? We live in Michigan. The police come and...
Meg, this is okay. This is where this book becomes a fantasy novel because the police do their job.
Oh my god, you're right.
I was expecting like Bilbo Baggins to pop out like any second.
Oh man, like what, is the police a vampire? Are they all dragons? This is so fantastical. Police in a horror novel doing their job correctly. They interview around and they find out that it's actually possum blood in the cab of the truck. And that Cade was playing a joke.
Hey, that's okay, I hate possums. American possums, not Australian possums.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was about to be very careful here. You're on the edge now. One way you could go, that's great. Another way you could go, it's terrible.
Yeah, no, I don't like American possums, because they're mean gremlins.
Yeah, I've actually got a possum upstairs right now. And then, Cade, really commits to this goof, because he doesn't show up at school.
He doesn't show up for a whole week. Man, this practical joker, and guess what? They also faked his death because they actually found his corpse.
Yeah, oh man, he was so committed to the goof that he actually died.
Or he's just a really good method actor.
Everybody basically thinks that Blake killed Cade.
It makes sense in the context of the story.
Yeah, because, they had a fight.
And not only that, he caused his dad to lose his dream job of living in a brewery.
Yeah, that's... And then, also, teenagers being awful, it's, messed up person in the grade. They're like, oh, that guy's the murderer. He's, got problems, so he's obviously a killer,
Yeah, and then this is where, the best thing about this book is that Blake doesn't have his head up his butt, and, I can solve this all by myself. He's like, hey, police, I have a suspect. His name's Charlie 17.
Yeah, he actually goes to the police, and he says, I suspect that this guy is stalking me. But then they find out that Charlie 17 couldn't be stalking Blake because he is in a mental institution because he was abused. He was abused by his foster parents.
And he tried to kill himself, so he was on suicide watch, so there's no way he could have left.
Yeah, so that wraps up that plot line. He goes back to the mom of Davy's mom, and he goes back to his old house and finds his mom's box of mementos, and Davy's mom's perfume is in the box.
That's one. And then they also find a picture of the hunting lodge, and it turns out that Blake's dad also was a member of this hunting lodge.
Yeah. So, and then he finds out that the cult was the town that he's in currently. That Lisa's dad is the new leader of the cult, basically.
It's really weird because this reminds me of the plot of Hot Fuzz. This is where I was expecting.
Yeah, it is a bit.
It's pretty much Hot Fuzz because they want to make it the best town ever.
And then he finds out that his stepdad and Davy's mom were having an affair, which is the layers in this book. It's like a soap opera.
I was expecting David Lynch to pop out of nowhere. Or it's like, it was amnesia. Oh, wait, that is a plot thread in this book.
Yeah, because do you want to tell them what happens?
Well, no, because we have to get to that part.
Oh, yeah, we haven't gotten to that part yet.
Someone actually is stalking Blake that has killed Cabe, and he defeats him super easily because...
And he finds out that Davy, his dead best friend, and Lisa were, fated to be betrothed. You know, they were, the next arranged couple, and then Davy died. And so now Cabe's dead because Lisa had slept with Cade in the past, which is, why Cade was going around telling everybody that she was a slut.
And then it turns out that it was Old Man Jenkins doing the murders. Literally Old Man Jenkins.
And by Old Man Jenkins, do you mean Lisa's dad? Because he did it. And there's a great scene where he's, she shows up outside his window, and she's, throwing rocks up to get him to come down, and he's not going to do it, but then he sees a figure in the woods, and then he goes out, and he's like, Dad, call the police, and he's, chasing her through the scuppernongs.
Heavy southern synth music, or the Eagles are playing.
Aggressive banjo music. That scene kind of reminded me of Signs. Did you get Signs vibes? Because I did. Anything where there's, people chasing each other through a field at night just makes me think about Signs, even if it's not a cornfield. If it's any sort of, farm field ever, I always think of Signs.
Really? Every time I think of wooden doors, I think of Signs.
Because the wooden doors are the only things that are going to stop the aliens.
That and water. The original cut of that movie, or one of the original scripts of the movie, was they weren't aliens, they were actually demons. And it makes sense.
Yeah, that would have made so much more sense because the main character is a priest. That would have made so much more sense.
Yeah, so it turns out it's him because Lisa's dad thought, that Blake was a usurper. That's a college word that I'm so happy I could actually use in this situation. And sent him to jail, and Blake's getting ready to move to Columbia with his dad when...
And he's decided that he's going to go to the same college as Lisa so that they don't have to be apart from each other. They only have to, spend their last year of high school apart from each other, and then they'll see each other again when they start uni.
Yeah, and so they decide to go visit, I guess. I don't know, this is the part where it gets kind of weird.
He goes back to the pool shop. He keeps going back to the pool shop.
And then that's where, his memory comes back, and it turns out that Blake was the one that killed his best friend. But then who framed Burger Joe's?
Oh my god, and it works because he's working at a burger restaurant when this happens, so it basically is Burger Joe did nothing wrong.
Oh, he did everything wrong.
That's our next t-shirt, by the way. Burger Joe did nothing wrong. Yeah, so anyway, well, he's working at Burger Joe's, and he gets into a fight with Davy because Davy was stealing from the cash register and doing all this other stuff that was kind of shitty. And they get into a fight, and Davy, Blake didn't mean to.
But he took an axe and gave him 26 whacks.
Which, I don't know how you accidentally axe somebody.
He asked him a question, and then he chopped him in little bits. Simple as that.
Oh, okay. Well, when you put it like that, that makes absolutely perfect sense.
I mean, over that, they went to a cabin in the woods, and they found, this old book, and they read from it, and,
Do you know what? Watching Cabin in the Woods, every time I watch Cabin in the Woods, I get, more and more upset that they picked the book, because, every time I watch that movie, I notice, a thing that they touch, and I'm like, ooh, what monster was that? What monster was that? I figured out that the conch shell is the merman. The music box is the ballerina with the real janky mouth. Apparently the film projector is Kevin, and it's do we ever figure out what Kevin was? Because how there's that board, and one of it just says Kevin, and apparently Drew Goddard has confirmed that the movie projector summons Kevin, and I want to know what Kevin is. I want to summon Kevin.
Yeah, so this is it gets really weird because this happens, and then it cuts to it was almost like a dream within a dream where Blake is now in a mental asylum because he actually goes to the cops and tells them he got away with the perfect crime because his stepfather picked up the axe
and started chasing him.
Chased him and crushed him. Blake could have just played dumb for the rest of his life. But no, he doesn't.
Yeah. But he's a good boy. He's a good Southern boy.
He's a good friend. He's about to have the best friend in the world because his cellmate is named Charlie.
Yeah, and so they can go on this journey of healing together.
And then never-ending story music starts playing.
I really like that they use a lot of mental illness tropes, but they don't make Blake out to be a bad person. because he makes a lot of really good decisions that a lot of characters in these kinds of books don't. Like, he does go to the police, and he, like, tries to do the right thing, even though, like, you know, it's not like some H.P. Lovecraft thing where it's like, I remembered I did this, and now I am evil.
I am the fish monster.
I was the rats in the walls. Me and my racist cat. If I am Cthulhu and you're Cthulhu, then who's flying the plane?
So, Meg, what did you think of this book?
I liked it. I think it was like a solid, like for something that's self-published and like it's not very... Did you say that this was his second book?
I believe, yeah, this is the second book that he's written. He's written short stories and stuff, but I think this is his...
Yeah, like, for, like, somebody who's, like, not super experienced at writing novels, like, if maybe,
I wouldn't
like...
call it was experienced. It's just, I feel like he's trying to homage to a... Not, like, basically a Penny Dreadful style of writing.
It is a good, like, love letter to those series, but without, like, falling into the problems that, like, Fear Street and stuff has. Because it does subvert a lot of the different things that get annoying about those books, and, you know, the characters are a lot more sympathetic, especially, like, the female characters are a lot better written. Like, Lisa seems more like somebody that I would have gone to high school with, whereas the female characters in the Fear Street books are just, like, somebody who watched The Breakfast Club once and was like, I know what teens are like.
I know a John Hugh. I like this book. I feel like this book was very well written for... It's very... I hate to use this word, but... I can see myself reading this book again if I'm in the bathroom.
Yeah, it's a short read. Yeah, and it is, like, it's well written, even though there are just, like, little mistakes here and there that I picked up on, like...
But you can easily overlook them if you're not really...
Yeah, you can easily overlook them. It's just the fact that, you know, he doesn't have an editor.
You know, we're actually... No, I think the fact is, Meg, is that we're doing it as a review, so we actually have to be really critical of reading this book. So if you, like, weren't...
Yeah, the writing is good. It's like a couple of the plot, like we said, a couple of the plot threads are confusing and don't really, like, they're not set up very well, but, like...
This book actually has a payoff, so it has a setup and a payoff.
Yeah, overall, the payoff is good. I like the ending of it, and I think that the twist that Blake killed Davy kind of feels like a little bit of a cop-out.
If I wanted to, like, if we're talking about cop-outs here, I felt like the book is called The Reading Buddy, but there's very little to do with the Reading Buddy program.
Yeah, the Reading Buddy is not, like, the main... You're set up to believe that the Reading Buddy is a main antagonist and that, like, it's all about him being stalked by the Reading Buddy, but it's actually, like, this cult thing.
Well, I mean, because if we look because, you know, he did put it's an homage to Fear Street and all those places... In Fear Street, they always set up... every book has a gimmick.
Like, I don't have enough fingers to count the number of times where we've been like, why was this book called that? Because that's not what happens.
I mean, I guess maybe that's the joke of it. It could be, and we might be looking...
Maybe it's self-aware. I don't know. Bryce Gibson will have to tell us.
Bryce Gibson, I've been trying to get him on the show, and he said, yeah, we just have to figure out when.
We know what you did, Bryce Gibson. We're coming for you.
No. I get punched in the face. On my face.
He's gonna Southern bake your average day.
So we actually have a listener question that we proposed a week ago.
Yes, please.
So the listener question is, do you like reading digitally or physically? Why don't you, Meg? What do you prefer?
I definitely prefer physical books to reading digitally because I don't know why, but I just find it, like, a lot harder to focus on what I'm reading when I'm reading digitally, and, like, it's a lot when I've got a physical book in my hands, I can very easily see what part I'm up to because I do this thing where I put one finger on the next page. I have my thumb on the page that I'm reading currently. I have my first finger on the next page, my third finger on the next chapter, and then my other two fingers around the back of the book. So I can always see how much I've got left to, like, get to the next chapter. So I always know what my place is. But, like, I can't do that with a digital book. So sometimes I'll, like, accidentally scroll to the wrong page or I'll accidentally scroll back. And I'm not a very, like, technological person. I don't interface very well with technology, which may be a surprise to some people, but it's true. Like, I struggle to interact with people via, like, email. I'm very awkward in Facebook chats.
So for me, it's a little different. I have the system where if the book cannot fit into my pocket, I will get it digitally. So if it's a book that has over 500, 600 pages and it is a phone book, I will read it digitally. That's mostly because I read a lot of high fantasy.
Oh no, at that point, I just get the audiobook.
I'd rather read. I can read faster than I can listen, and sometimes because I get bored too easily on books, I either have to read it or not listen to the audiobook. Only time I get audiobooks is if it's a biography or some high fantasy, or if I want to reread a book.
I get audiobooks a lot.
I do. Actually, if you want a really good one, you should get Where I Am Now by Mara Wilson.
Oh, okay.
That was a really good book.
I downloaded the audiobook of Kraken like the second that I finished reading Kraken because I was like, I've got to listen to this audiobook. I need to confirm that somebody else read the same stuff that I did. That book's wild.
And so we actually had some people respond to this poll. From Neil Gravano, physically if I can, digitally if there's no other choice. So from Lillian, we have, I prefer physical, but I also enjoy the ability to carry hundreds of digital books wherever I go. But if I absolutely had to choose, definitely physically. Anarchy replied, I love holding books or having a physical reference to flip through, but the same novel can sit on my bag for months at a time without being opened. Digitally is very, very convenient. Phone screens are pretty large now, and if I find they're comfortable enough to read from the book, from the bed, etc. There's just a bunch of question marks, so I have to actually physically go to the person's name. From Ash Sandri, both actually. That's a safe answer. So Meg, what are we reading next week?
What are we reading next week?
Oh, you know what we're reading next week.
Oh my god, we are! That's right, we're going back to Goosebumps and we're reading my favorite Goosebumps book of all time. And if you...
Monster Blood 5.
No! There was no Monster Blood 5! You're telling lies!
Well, Meg, you have to be careful what you wish for, of course.
Oh, that's right. Yep, so if you know us, you know the show, you know me, you'll know that my favorite Goosebumps book of all time is Be Careful What You Wish For, and that's what we're reading next week.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Oh, I've got the chills. I'm so ready for this book.
Do you have thrills as well?
I have chills and thrills, yes. And I'm so ready for this book.
So we actually also have a really special announcement. Bryce Gibson's actually been generous enough to actually donate 2 signed copies of the book to us.
Nice!
So, what we're going to be doing with it is we're going to be giving it to one of our listeners, as well as the other one. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a little contest here. So the contest, everyone, you listen to this, okay? Get ready. We want you to take a photo of yourself, but in the most Fear Street-esque book cover pose possible. You can be creative, costume-wise, if you want to be in the 90s. Set it up, and we'll look at them, and whoever has the coolest one, we will send you the book.
You should caption it, tweet it at us, and caption it with the name of, what your Fear Street book would be.
Ooh, that's good. I didn't even think of that. That's why they pay you the big bucks, Meg.
Yeah, so just basically make yourself into a Fear Street cover and tweet it at us. Whoever has the best one is going to win, or the 2 best ones will win copies of The Reading Buddy.
Yes, and you guys will enjoy them, and they're going to be both signed by Bryce, and it's going to be super amazing.
And so it's so awesome of him to donate those books to us, because that's so cool.
Because he loves our show, and we love supporting independent art. So, Meg, you want to hear a joke?
Oh, yes, we gotta do, Jovial Bob's joke time.
So, Meg, you want to hear a joke?
Yeah, I want to hear a joke.
Did you hear the story about the zombie grave?
No, I didn't, Zach.
Never mind, you wouldn't dig it.
Oh, you hear me slapping my knee?
So, Meg, where can they find you?
You can find me online at MEGTUTEN on Twitter, or you can find me at sodasodabanana.tumblr.com. And if you want to buy Nightmare on Fear Street merchandise, you can go to my Redbubble store, which is redbubble.com/people/MEGHANTUTEN, and just look for the Nightmare on Fear Street merch folder in my portfolio. We've got the Nightmare on Fear Street pink logo, the Nightmare on Fear Street green logo, we've got the Vampire Blood Can't Melt Steel Beams t-shirt, and we've got the Bigfoot Capoeira Time t-shirt. And I've bought the mug of the Nightmare on Fear Street green logo mug. It's an excellent mug. I have all of my tea in that mug all the time.
So if you want to find me on Twitter, you can find me on Twitter at Suda41. That's SUDA41. If you want to follow our show on Twitter, that's at Night Fear Street. If you want to email the show and send us spooky messages, you can email us at nightmareonfearstreet@gmail.com. And if you want to check out my new show, Radio Camp Half-Blood, you can find us on every podcatching website now. So check us out.
Catch those pods.
Catch them. We got to catch them all.
We gotta catch all the pods.
So check that out. Thank you, Meg, for another wonderful episode.
Thank you, Zach, for being my reading buddy.
Aw, thanks. What are you doing with that axe? Oh, no. Meg, you cut my cherry pie. Thank you. It's boysenberry. Gross.
I don't even know what that is. That sounds like a fake fruit that you invented.
No, it's a real thing.
Oh, okay. I'll have to Google it then. Anyway.
I'm Zach.
I'm Meg.
And keep staying
spooky.
Bye.
Bye.